Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I must begin today's episode by thanking today's guest for being so incredibly patient and understanding. Because I was caught on a phone call ahead of today's interview, one of those that you just can't wind up, and I was actually 10 minutes late for the interview. And because I was on camera, I couldn't just pick up my phone and message him to tell him that I was going to be late. So I felt awful. I hate being late, and you know what? He was a complete gentleman for it. And his name is Stefan, and he is a mobile SaaS entrepreneur who is currently leading communications at Dolby, which acquired his company Voxy back in 2019. And as founder and CEO at Voxy, he pioneered inflow communications that enable leading apps in telemedicine, e-learning, and collaboration to significantly improve their users' experience, all while creating new revenue streams. And when not raising funds from influencers such as Jason Lemkin and a variety of Euro US funds, he enjoys staying close to his roots on the product and go-to-market fronts. What I'm trying to say, he is a great guy with a fantastic backstory, but enough from me. Buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way stateside so we can speak with him right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you for having me. So I'm Stefan Giraudy, and I'm currently the Senior Director of Cloud Communications at Dolby. And I was formerly the CEO of Voxy, which was acquired about 2 years ago by Dolby.
And I think it's worth highlighting that you've enjoyed a fantastic career in technology. But I'm curious, can you remember where it all began and what lit the spark for your passion for technology?
Yeah, good question. I keep saying to everyone that it was 17 years ago, right? In fact, it's now more than 20 years. So kind of time stopped there. But no, I was really lucky. I was doing my business school in France, and I had to do an internship, right? And I reached out to some of my contacts, and one of them told me that he knew this guy in Santa Cruz with this very cool company, and maybe if I send my resume, they'll pass it along. And they did that. The next day, I was on the phone with a guy, brilliant mathematician, right, working in Silicon Valley, and he told me, "Look, we're not taking any intern, but get your plane ticket, and then we'll see." Next day, I called him back with my plane ticket. And he said, all right, come in. And he was, the company was called Live Picture. He was the beginning of digital imaging. And he was a, fantastic ride. He sold his shares very briefly after that to John Sculley, which I think you had as a guest on your podcast before.
Yes.
And I ended up being the product leader for this company called Live Pix, which was kind of the consumer arm of Live Picture. And I was kind of driving John Sculley all around Silicon Valley to do, keynote speak. And I was doing his demo, right? So I think it was kind of a fantastic, beginning, right? And an introduction to technology. And so that really set the stage for me and sparked my passion for entrepreneurship and startups in general.
Wow, what a fantastic story. Did you learn anything from him? Because it's obviously such a great figure in tech.
Yeah, I mean, he was the CEO of Live Picture for quite a bit, and fantastic creative person. He was coming up with ideas very, very quickly. So I think the challenge there was for the team, right, to filter a little bit of that, right, and stay focused and making sure that those ideas were. They were great ideas, right? It was a great learning process for sure.
And of course, from there, you went on to become a mobile SaaS entrepreneur that is currently leading cloud communications at Dolby, which acquired your company, Voxy. So can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the journey you've been on there?
Yeah, so we started Voxy in 2012. And initially, we started as a conferencing app. And the value prop was really to revolutionize at the time, right, it was the end of the first wave with what I call the first wave with WebEx and GoToMeeting. a lot of users were frustrated about the sound quality. And so we came up with this new technology with 3D audio. So at the time, it was really revolutionary, right? You could actually position the participants in the space. So you had, let's say, a room about 10 meters deep, right? And I could put you to my right, and the sound will actually come from the right, from that position. So that's what we call, 3D audio or spatial audio. And that really reduces fatigue on the scores. And you were able to do that from a mobile platform. So we launched at the demo conference, which we won. And it was the beginning of a journey for Voxit, a long journey, but that was the beginning of a journey.
And so much has changed over the last 18 months. And I'm curious, how do you see the future of how we meet and how we connect, and equally the role that technology will play in that future?
Yeah, indeed, so much has changed, right? And especially in the last 12 months. I mean, we've seen an acceleration of a lot of use cases that we're following, in some cases we believe by 5 years, right? I mean, we knew that the trend was actually going in that direction, but the COVID-19 situation, just accelerated everything. So I think I just referred to the first wave, right? With GoToMeeting and WebEx. So clearly now we are in the second wave with Zoom being the leader and executing extremely well, right? Everybody's on a Zoom calls like we are on right now. But the third wave, I think it's going to be even bigger, right? What I'm seeing is that, now a lot of those use cases, I mean, you take collaboration, you take, distance learning with virtual classrooms, you take telemedicine, you take social apps. I mean, you name it, right? They are going to try now to embed, and they're also already starting, right? But that's the third wave. It's what I call in-flow communications. That as a developers, you can embed this experience inside your own apps. You don't need to send your users, right, to Zoom, right? You can keep that traffic and build the user experience around your business workflows. So that's what we do at Dolby.io, right? We provide those ingredients, those APIs that you can embed in your own app to create this video experience.
And one of the reasons I was excited to invite you on the podcast today was to talk a little bit more about those interactive audio-visual experiences. So can you tell me from your point of view how the future of employee and customer engagement will depend on those interactive audio-visual experiences?
Well, we are kind of in that already, right? I mean, we are still after 1 year, right? In March last year, we went full remote at Dolby, which, so, and I think a lot of companies are still remote these days, right? So I think we are depending on good, very high quality, interactive experiences every day. So that's why we are working to make them more lifelike. This is where I think the spatial audio technology, the things we discussed about before, right? We really play a role. And we're also seeing that if you take, for example, events, right? The event industry, it's of course fully online right now, and we'll see some great companies trying to bring this experience fully online. But I think it's going to stay, right? It's going to become more like an hybrid model where a lot of people will attend events, but also will join now virtually, right? And that really opened the door, I think, to some very interesting experiences, especially for networking or. This technology can really bring, some new use cases, I think, in play as well. So it's here to stay.
It really is. Another topic I'd like to explore a little bit more with you is how do you think the increase in consumer listening and user-generated content has almost created a boom for audio-first businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there's an explosion, right, of content that is being created right now. And I mean, if you look at even the podcasting industry, I think it's we have a lot of clients and prospects that are, trying to really revolutionize the experience there and bring more interactivity into this podcast. You look at Clubhouse, obviously, right? Now valued at more than $4 billion. This is just incredible, right? So I think people are really like seeking, I think there's a kind of a Zoom fatigue a little bit. So with this video first, you need some type of audio enables you, I think, to have a more like kind of deeper interaction because you're not distracted by the video. So I think that's why we are seeing this success with Clubhouse. And then there's a lot, of course, companies that are trying to follow that, right? Facebook and Twitter and Reddit recently, I saw that. And so there's a lot of Slack, I think, is going to do that for employees as well. So yeah, we should be able to, in the next, I think we're going to see more of that. Yes.
And of course, over the last 12 months, there's been a huge boom in telehealth and virtual care solutions too. But the world is opening back up now. So I've got to ask, do you think the need for telehealth and other virtual care solutions won't slow down? And this is going to be something we see more and more of now?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the use case in the market that we've been, of course, watching very closely here at Dolby, and massive acceleration, right? 5 years acceleration with what we've seen last year. So digital transformation is really happening really quickly. And we have seen, hospitals and care providers move to this telehealth environment. And there are quite a lot of benefits from that, right? I think I have some research that says that by 2026, it will be a 175 billion industry, right? So clearly it's going to continue. And it's also opening up some very interesting use cases, right? Like for remote diagnostic, for example. Now you can add, smart devices to monitor your vitals. So when you speak with your physician, right, they will be able to have the complete picture of how you're doing, right? And if you bring AI on top of that, I think it could really kind of help surface some trends and some recommendations, maybe to change your diet or change your medication. So yeah, I mean, we've seen again 50% year-over-year growth in telehealth appointments. So this is massive, right? And with telehealth, I think you can reach more patients and you can be more efficient as a doctor. So that translates into massive, savings as well, right? So I think it's not going to continue on that pace, right? Because of course, once we start reopening, I think people will go and see their doctor. But a lot of those visits can really be done through a teleconsultation. So I think that is going to keep growing from there. And with the new use cases we talked about, I think it's going to expand the possibilities as well.
Like you said, there's so many massive changes across multiple industries, and it's going to require a lot of new solutions and a lot of help from other companies too. So what role do you see yourselves playing in this future that we've discussed today, especially, with your work? Is there anything where you see yourselves playing? What role you see yourselves playing in this?
Well, I think when we, back to the Voxit days, right? I think we saw the emergence of the third wave with inflow communication. So we pivoted the Voxit from a conferencing player to an API provider, right? So I think Dolby IO is very well positioned right now to become one of the leader, right? And it's going to help also with Dolby IO. Now we can bring the Dolby experience, right? We like to call it the Dolby magic, to new industries as well, such as healthcare, e-learning, digital collaboration, online training, podcasting, social media. I mean, that's, it's mind-boggling, right? Everywhere you look, there's a use case. So that's where I think Dolby can be a huge market leader in that respect, because we have 50 years of experience in the with audio and video. So I think when we start bringing those technologies to this developer platform, right? With now you can enhance every interactions, every piece of media content in just a few lines of code. So adding Dolby to your stack as a developer, I think it's going to make a difference.
And just to bring to life some of the things that we're talking about here today and helping people listening understand how all this could work in their world, do you have any of those use cases that you can share just to help them understand how inflow communications that you create, enable leading apps in telemedicine, e-learning, collaboration, etc., can all significantly improve their user experience, but while also creating new revenue streams too?
Yeah. I think, as I mentioned, I think the idea is that instead of sending your users to an outside app, right, you can keep that engagement for your app, right, and you can build stellar, experiences, right. And this is what, by the way, users are craving for right now. I mean, we are used to, when you talk about content, right, we're used to have now a very, high expense. When you download, for example, your favorite episode of on the Netflix and you stream it, right, works and it's beautiful, right? So now we want the same type of experience for for your telemedicine. We just talked about telemedicine. When you talk with your doctor, the sound has to work and the video has to be perfect, right? Otherwise, I don't think that the doctor will be able to diagnose your condition. So we have clients, they are doing even physiotherapy, right? So instead of going there, they overlay, for example, some of the exercises. So when you talk with your practitioner here, you can see exactly what they mean, right? You can take a yoga class now online, and it's fully interactive. I mean, you have social games as well. I mean, again, I think it's virtual classroom. Obviously, I mean, there's a lot of use cases that can be enabled by those kind of APIs. And I think the challenge here is to make it more lifelike. It needs to work as if we were in the same room, right? That's really the key here.
Love that, and love chatting with you today. And a question I always like to ask my guests and finish the podcast on is ask them what song inspired them in the past, helped them in their tech career, or helped them just get their head in the zone before going on stage and doing a keynote. What would your song be and why?
That's a good question. Well, I think I will have to go back to my, I'm French. And so I think I grew up with, French rock. So I will have to say Indochine. I kind of play the La Vie est belle, which is life is good, right? Usually when I have to make a speech in front of a large audience, and so that's the one I will pick, I guess.
I love that, and I'm really adding that to the Tech Talks Daily podcast Spotify list there, so people can listen to that.
I can send you the link.
Well. Yeah. But before I do let you go, for anyone listening that'd like to find out more information about the work that you're doing, can you let them know where they can find you online and contact your team if they've got any questions?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. And it's very easy to contact our team. We go to the Dolby.io, which is the developer platform. And we have many ways to contact our team. We even give about 30,000 free minutes. So if you want to build a proof of concept, or if you want to test, you can do it on us. So please reach out, and we'd love to hear from all of you.
Well, there's so much I've loved about our conversation today, in particular the future of employee and customer engagement and how it depends on interactive audio-visual experiences. We kind of take it for granted, I think, already, but there's so much great work going on in that field. So thank you so much for taking the time to sit and share your story with me today.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
There is so much that I loved about chatting with today's guest. Yes, about Dolby, but also his journey in technology and for discussing the future of how we meet and connect and also the future of employee and customer engagement and how it will actually depend on interactive audio-visual experiences. And there is an argument it already does. And finally, how the increase in consumer listening and user-generated content is creating a boom for audio-first businesses. But I'm really interested if you've noticed any similar trends in your workplace too. And what are you doing about it? As always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can find more information over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, where you'll also find over 1,550 interviews, not to mention the other show I do with Citrix too. So keep those messages, questions coming in, and I'll return again tomorrow. But a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.